International students are usually not sure of the types of questions that the immigration officers usually ask at the airport in Canada. And so in today's video, we're going to look at the top questions that international students are being asked at the airport and how to also handle them. Just as a disclaimer, the information that is going to be shared on this video will be from my personal experience and from others who have also had this same experience. So the first question usually is, why are you visiting Canada? The immigration officer wants to know the reason for your visit to Canada. So whatever reasons you have added in your statement of purpose while you are filling your application to come to Canada as an international student, make sure that they align properly when you give a response. So as an international student, you should be prepared to provide information about your studies and the school that you are going to attend. The second question usually is, have you been to Canada before? So if you're an international student and you're traveling to Canada, you may be asked a few extra questions at the airport. And one of these questions may be whether or not you've been to Canada before. And if you have been to Canada before, they may ask you how long you stayed and what you did while you were there. So if you have not been to Canada before, please, they may ask you why you're visiting and also how long you plan on staying in Canada. Be prepared to answer these questions truthfully and only provide the details that will help you in your response. Don't answer what they've not asked you. They'll ask you, what school will you be studying here in Canada? The questions used to vary depending on the student's situation. However, one of the questions that they commonly ask is which school the student will be studying here in Canada. So the answer to this question will help the immigration officer to kind of determine if you as an international student is eligible to enter into the country or not. So you need to give them the details of your school, and if your agent completed your application for you, please let your agent tell you what information was submitted so that you can tally. The fourth question is, what program are you enrolled in this school? You may be asked about your enrollment status when you arrive here in Canada. So be prepared to answer questions about the program that you're enrolled in and how long you plan to study. It is very important to have all your documents ready to show the immigration officer, just in case they ask for those documents. So ensure that as you're traveling, you have your enrollment letter and any other correspondence that the school has with you, have them in your carry-on luggage. Also, please know the program that you're going to be studying here in Canada. Many students get to the airport and they do not have an idea of what program they'll be enrolled in. This itself is a red flag. Number 5 question, why did you choose this particular university, college, program, and course? You see, the immigration officer is interested in your reasons for studying in Canada. It is very important for you to give a brief explanation of why you choose to enroll in this particular field of program or this particular university or college. Please remember what you included in your SOP, that is your statement of purpose, because your response needs to match what was on your initial application. And whatever your reasons may be, always make sure that you are honest in everything you are saying. The 6th question, what is your duration of the program here in Canada? If you are coming for a short-term program, you may be asked about your travel plans and why you are visiting Canada. If you're coming for a longer program, maybe 8 months in length or more, you may be asked about your plans, like how will you support yourself financially during your stay here in Canada. So whatever the case, it is very important for you to be honest, like I said earlier on, and be forthcoming with the official so that you avoid any problems with your entry to the country Canada. So if your program is going to be 8 months long, this is what you have to say. And if it is less than that, make sure you let the officer know. The 7th question is, do you have relative friends here in Canada? If you have any relatives or friends in Canada, the immigration officer may ask you about who they are. They may want to know how long you'll be staying with these people and what your plans are while you're here in Canada. It is important that you are honest with the officer and provide as much information as possible. If you have a relative, then say you have one. And if you'll be staying with them, let them know. If you have a friend, please give them details about your relationship with this person and how long you'll be staying with them. Make sure that in all you let the officer knows your plan for this visit. The eighth question, where are you going to be staying? Usually, this question, they ask visitors and work permit holders where they will be staying here in Canada. But for you as an international student, you should already have an accommodation address ready to give to the officer, either a hotel or an accommodation at school. You should have the address. Even if it's the hotel, you must have the address given to the officer. If you're going to be staying with friends and family for the meantime, you should also have the contact information of these people. They may also ask you how long you plan on staying in Canada. So if you're a visitor, I beg, please have a return ticket to show the officer that you are returning back home. The next question is, who will be paying for your expenses here in Canada? So if you're an international student and you're coming to Canada to study, you may be asked about your finances at the airport. The immigration officer will want to know who is going to be paying for your expenses here in this country. They might even ask you how much you have to support yourself. They might even ask you, yes, for proof of financial support, such as a bank statement or a letter from your sponsor. Some students that I know that I've spoken with were asked to even show their bank statement and the money that they have on them. If your parents are going to be supporting you, then you should have a letter to back that information. Please be prepared to answer these questions as truthfully and provide any documents that may be requested by the officer. Number 10, do you have health insurance while in Canada? We all know here that healthcare services in Canada, it is really expensive. So for international students, the officer might want to know how you have planned to handle your healthcare expenses without being a financial burden on the system. So it is very important for you to provide a clear, honest, and straightforward response to this particular question. If you're on a visitor's visa, you can also mention that you have already purchased your private health insurance plan, which will cover your medical expenses during your stay here in Canada. You can also tell them the type of insurance that you have if you are an international student, or please let them know that you have a student health insurance through your institution. It is also important to mention any document that you have, like maybe like as for visitors, you would have an insurance policy or a confirmation letter that you have with you from the insurance company. The next question, number 11, what are you going to do after you finish your program? I believe that this is a very tricky question. Most people fail this particular question at the airport in Canada. The officer really wants to know if you're going to return back to your home country after your studies or after your visit here. Please remember what you wrote on your statement of purpose, that your intention after studying is to return home, and please do not say more than what is being asked. Number 12, why did you choose Canada to study? The officer wants to know if you actually wrote your statement of purpose yourself. So remember why you chose Canada and let the officer know. Remember that it should be the same information as what you have on your application. When I came to Canada as an international student, one of the reasons I gave the officer when he asked me this question was that Canada is a welcoming place for immigrants, and the cost of living in Canada is relatively low compared to other developed countries. This makes it an excellent option for students who really want to save their money while they study. That was my own answer. Your answer may be different. Plan to know what you're going to tell the officer. Do you plan to work in Canada? Again, this is another tricky question. If you're on a visitor visa, remember that you cannot work in Canada with a visitor visa. So if they ask you this question, simply say, as a visitor, I am not allowed to work in Canada and I don't intend to work. As an international student, if your program requires a co-op work permit, when they ask you this question, please show the officer your letter from your educational institution that was sent to you when you were accepted into the program. The next question is, have you ever been refused a visa to Canada or any other country before? This is one of the questions that international students might be asked that sometimes makes them nervous. However, keep in mind that the immigration officer really needs to confirm your immigration background and any prior visa rejection that you might have had. So if really you have been refused a visa before, please, in your response, be truthful, direct, and include details on why you were denied a visa in the past. The next question is, do you plan to return to your job after completing your studies here in Canada? If you are an adult student in your late 30s or in your early 40s, they may ask about your occupation, that is your job, and whether you took any time off in your home country. It is very important to reaffirm that you really want to return to your current employer or that you really want to find another job back home in your country, or that is the reason why you're looking to study here in Canada, and after you graduate, you're still going to go back. If you're still working back home, please show the officer a letter of your absence, showing that your employer has allowed you time off to pursue your education here in Canada. Now that we've talked about this, let us talk about how you should interact with the CBSA officers at the airport to learn how you can answer these questions when they ask you. These tips I'm going to share right now will really help, especially international students, to ace those questions that are being asked at the airport. So let's go. If English is not your first language, please request for a translator. Do not start a conversation with the officers and later claim that, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you know. There will not be an excuse for that one. Now, only respond to the questions that the officers ask you. Avoid providing extra information or sharing unrelated stories. Just stick to yes or no. And you can also provide a specific answer that is relevant to the question that you're being asked. The next tip is that you need to ensure that the information that you provide aligns well with the documents that you're carrying and the details that you also filled in your immigration file or application. Your responses should also match the official records that they have on file regarding your previous border crossings, your immigration history as well. The immigration officers, they study psychology as part of their criteria. So it means that they can easily read your body language. So please answer the questions clearly and confidently. Also, maintain eye contact with the immigration officer during the questioning period and be respectful. Be courteous to the officer. Avoid getting into unnecessary arguments. And please cooperate fully with these officers and respond promptly to their questions without any hesitation. Let us now talk about the documents that are required for immigration check at the airport. So the documents that you might be asked to provide as an international student are your study permit approval letter, your letter of acceptance from your Canadian school, a proof of tuition payment, that is if you have not paid them in full, proof of your English score, that is your IELTS or your French, if that is a requirement by your school, your proof of your finances, your study plan or your statement of purpose, your confirmation of your accommodation, maybe a hotel, an apartment, an Airbnb, or an address of your family members or even your friends. You also need documentations that shows your home ties, especially for people who are matured. Now, in order to end this video, as an international student, you might be required to answer some additional questions or even follow-up questions as required by the officer based on how you answer the first questions. So when you arrive here in Canada, Please know that once you are cleared by the officer, that is the only time you can gain entry into the country and be on your way to enjoying your studies here in Canada. I hope that you have found this video very helpful. Please do me a favor and like, share, subscribe to my channel for more tips like this. And there'll be videos that'll be popping up on your screen very shortly. Please ensure and endeavor that you watch them. They would also help you as a newcomer here in Canada, either as an international student, a visitor, or a worker. It would also help you. And until I see you in my very next video, stay safe and have a good day.